So can you see my dust box?
You what?
Or are you looking at me?
We're seeing
I'm
you.
looking at you.
Here we go.
Dust
Now
box.
you can be able to see it. Okay, so this is the dust box that sits behind my lathe. And right behind the lathe is a fan that blows at that dust box as well. So this is also a fan inside. So I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the fan inside with a double filter. So I'm going to pull a filter out. And you can see how much dust it collects. Collects all that super fine dust. That's a $29 fan from the big box store that I built the box around. And then there's also a filter on the backside, like the front side filter, just to catch anything that may go through that first two filters. But it really works good being within a foot of my lathe to catch all that super fine dust. I have a pellet stove in my workshop which doesn't like dust, so it's just a way to really catch the dust off the lathe. And my lathe is right there, and the fan behind it is right up there, which oscillates. So it's just another idea for somebody that wants to catch that super fine dust and keep it out of their lungs.
That's a good
I'd like
idea,
to
Scott. It's good for
I'd
a
like to say I
compact,
stole
shop.
your idea. I've got something in my office. Oh, excuse me. Well, what everybody else calls the shop, I call my office. What I did was I took the $29 fan, I made a cube that so it would accept 4 of those filters, 1 on each side, and then the fan sits on top blowing out. And that's just, and then I've got something similar to what you've got right there that sits on a workbench I've got next to my lathe. And I've got a real small shop office. It's only 10 by 20, but I'm amazed at how much fine dust all these fans collect. But I mean, like I said, the fan is not expensive. If you actually go to Goodwill, you can find it for about $10.
Yeah.
You
So
blow
what
out
else
you blow
So
out
what
the
else they do
fan.
with this? So what else they do with this too is they lay it down on a table and put a piece of pegboard on top, and I use it as a dust box when I want to sand something flat or carve something. It works as a downdraft table.
Do you use compressed air to clear all the dust that catches in the fan motor out?
Actually,
gets
mine,
there.
yeah,
It never
the
gets
dust
through
never
my
gets to the
HEPA
fan motor.
filter.
Well, I've used the breeze
Yeah.
boxes with furnace filters on both sides. Works fine. When I find that over a month or so of use, it needs to be hit with my compressed air just to be sure I don't get a buildup around the motor.
Yeah, what I end up doing is vacuuming them first on the intake part to get as
Yeah.
much dust as possible, and then I'll take them outside my office and spray through them outside. So I share the dust with the rest of the world.
So if
There
you
you
can
go.
see my fan, you can see my fan. This has been running for 6 months probably, on and off. There's no dust on those blades. I use a HEPA filter in between. So my second filter is a HEPA filter.
Sandwich like an Oreo cookie.
Yep. So
Yep, I do
first
something
filter
exactly
catches
like that.
Yeah,
I like the idea.
that's cool.
The first
I was gonna
filter catches all the big flakes, and then the second filter goes all the way to 0.3 microns because it's a 12 or a 13 mer filter. So I mean, it's as good as the filters that they're running on Cyclone.
Right?
Yeah, so what I used was to make the cube that I have 4 filters on and the fan on top, it took a quarter of a sheet of plywood. So 3/4 plywood that I cut into like, we'll say 1.5 inch strips to make the cube. And then each edge holds a filter in, and I've got little catches and whatnot. And just the bottom part takes 20 by 20 piece. And so I could have had 5 filters, but it was just, I thought 4 is enough.
Yeah, I find that 3 works great. And And I just throw the HEPA filter away. I don't even, they're not that expensive if you buy them on Amazon, and I just throw them away. I don't even try to clean them.
Just buy, can't you just buy the roll stuff? That's what I use.
Yeah, you could.
'Cause I have to
I
make
just-
filters for my AC unit.
Yeah, I just buy them.
I buy
Since
the
since we're talking box fans and filters,
Mhm.
let me show you what I got going on in my shop, if you want to highlight me, Dane.
Yeah, we'll get
It's
you 10.
real quick and redneck. I mean,
Action.
hey, I'm a cheap guy. All I did, I put a French cleat attached to that box fan there. And then on the back side, it's kind of
You know-
jerry-rigged up
Yeah, your old furnace filters.
Yeah, it just pressed in, $20 box fan and a friggin' $2 filter or whatever. And
Yep.
that's circulating all the air in my shop, probably. I've got actually two when I'm doing a lot of work. I've got one that's on the floor and one that's up there. And all the air in my shop gets circulated through, plus I also have my dust collection going on. So I'm not sucking a whole lot, but I do wear the respirator, when I'm cutting and doing all that stuff. But that's just a quick, easy way to hang the box, Scott. That great idea. I thought about doing that, but I got tied up with other things. And it was just a quick, easy way of cleaning my air in my shop about, 4 years ago, and it's never changed since then. 'Cause I'm just too lazy and I got other things to do. But
If,
Yeah, and that's what I'm using. I'm using filters like that too, Tim.
right. Yeah, and those filters are cheap. I mean, I get a box full, and you can even use the lightly used filters that don't look all ratty and stuff. I train the National Guard, and they change my filters out about once a month, once every 2 months or whatever in the classroom, and the filters look like they haven't even been used if nobody's been in there. So I just take what they're throwing out, bring it home and use it, man.
if you.
Hey, I want to go really, really cheap on this. Let's go really cheap. Hold on, Billy. I know that he built the box, the wooden box. Let's just stick the filter to the fan. Don't y'all? Have y'all heard
Yeah,
of
that's what
there's
I
a
did,
product?
Eddie.
There's a product called duct tape. Yeah. And you-
I used wire, so I didn't have to keep replacing the duct tape. I just put a little
Okay.
wire loop underneath it.
And I was going to say, I use a product called Bungee.
Oh, Bungee. I like that.
It's reusable.
And it comes in different colors. If you're
does.
working in your office, I like that office thing. I want to change the sign on my door to Eddie's office.
They do get dusty, but that cleans off too.
I have a boardroom.
Oh, really? Boards in it?
If you. I like that, Jim.
Isn't that
If you guys-
something?
If you guys know an
One of
AC
our-
guy, one of the easiest, or one of the things you can do, AC guys take these perfectly functional squirrel cages out of people's houses all the time when they're switching out heating and air conditioning systems. And if you can talk one of these HVAC guys into giving you one of those squirrel cages, those are really, really, really good for building air cleaners for your shop. I've got HEPA filters in mine, and it moves a ton of air, much more than the box fans do. The box fans are nice, but I can turn that filter on and my entire shop will get, the air will be completely clean within 10, 15 minutes. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I used something like that years ago, but unfortunately, I sold a house and moved and left it in that other house. They got a bargain. They probably threw it away.
Yeah, probably.
The other thing, Billy, that I've seen guys using in other shops that have been around here, they've been using the fans out of the squirrel cage fans out of a vent hood over a stove, from an
Yep.
old stove.
Yeah, they won't move as much air as the squirrel cages from the HVAC systems, but
Concept.
they'll move enough air to make it worth your while.
I was gonna say that's moving all the air in your house, so
Yeah.
it's got a lot of oomph to it.
I
If
had one
anybody
when
near
I
me
didn't
wants
have.
one. I've got a squirrel cage I'll give you.
The shipping
I-
would be terrible.
Yeah. My shop had no air conditioning, I had a squirrel cage I put inside in the door and blow the air out, hot air. And the shop will leak enough to where they get some draw of other air. So it wasn't a dust collection system, it was a dust prevention system. Just send it out to my neighbors because they're not breathing anyway.
I was gonna say it's compost out there.
Yeah.
So guys,
Well,
what
check-
is the squirrel cage?
What?
It's
What is the
It's
squirrel
what-
cage?
It's
It
what
is.
so in your furnace system, it's what pulls the air up into your furnace or air conditioning system from your
And
bottom ductwork from where the unit, your
The big cylinder.
and then
unit
pushes
is.
it through the house. It's a
Okay.
fan.
It's a blower.
It's a cylindrical
Essentially,
fan.
it's a blower.
Yeah, this got veins on it, and it spins. You know, like they call it a squirrel cage because you know the little things that you put in hamster cages where they run on them.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
that's
running
what
like that, yeah.
yeah,
What it looks like.
it's like that, except it's got veins on it that push air, and it's
Right.
powered either directly by a
Fast.
motor or by a motor and belt.
Yep.
And they move a ton of air.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you can
the
also,
size
also
view,
you gotta
that's the
have-
size
gotta have
view.
the motor to power it too.
Yeah,
Captain, can you highlight me again? I'll show her what one looks like.
your furnace
Oh.
exhaust fan is usually, or your stove exhaust fan is usually, if you got a fan above your stove, it's usually that.
Find me
too.
Captain under Scott's
Yeah, it's similar.
iPad.
Are you
Scott's
Scott
tab.
tab?
Somebody's got them.
Scott, you got it tab S2?
Yeah,
Yep,
that's Scott.
Got you?
We got you.
Yeah,
All right.
let me turn
Oh,
my
I see.
camera
Is that it?
around.
There we go.
So here's what a squirrel cage fan looks like.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
It's just it's a small version of it's a blower fan out of a furnace is what it is.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, it looks like
That's
there's
exactly
squirrel residue in there.
That was before he put the box fan in with the filters.
It's got
Yeah.
that was a good buy for $2.
Yeah, it was a good buy and it works. It's gonna be my fan for on my ceiling because it's small. So I don't lose the head height.
Okay. Ron Radliff, a founding member, just threw some stuff in the chat about Electric Motor Warehouse, yada 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 yada. And I can't read all that code, but hey, check that one out. And this is great. You see, one of our members had a comment about taking dust out of his shop, and Safety Sue has told us before you need to think about that. And we got to talking about it. I've known people for years that worked in mill shops and cabinet shops and all, and they all have severe breathing problems. And the joke was, did you smoke? No, I didn't smoke. This was from where I work at. I inhaled it and it built up in my lungs, and now my lungs are mad at me. So they don't work so good. And it's not a simple thing to fix in some cases. It's just something you should consider fixing.